Central Sports Park, where we have a lot of our youth as well as adults playing a lot of leagues and sport leagues and staying active. And so you can see last year, 1.7 million, I was at 33%. I'll also share this with my board to say that, hey, we're serving more people with the same amount of people and oftentimes the less amount of people that we had before, to show that we are trying to be as efficient as possible with taxpayer dollars. Next slide goes into where we are through July, sort of the same report. Next slide gives a little more detail when we talk about the different kind of facilities. You can see in athletics, this was for July, Oakville, Olympia, and you can see Central Sports Complex as part of the athletics. We look at our recreation centers, you can see how many people visited Jackson that month. And so all of this is great activities in terms of the facilities that we have. Next slide. Summer camp, that's our most popular program, certainly here in Central. All the spots fill up pretty quickly at Lovett and Jackson. We had a great year this past summer. I don't think we did it this summer, but previous summers we worked with the Central School System and have offered camps. After school system, half a day you learn and then half a day you play. And so we were great to have that participation with Jason Fountain. Next slide. Oh yeah, see, I wasn't responsible for putting this presentation together. Somebody slid that picture in on me, but we talk about all the great facilities we have. This is us in 2022 celebrating Central Sports Park. We had just finished turfing the last of the 7 fields out there and had a great celebration. It's the first park system we've had that we've turfed all the fields. We have shade sails and stuff like that. And I had to put that quote down there from my good buddy, former Senator Bodie White, talking about working with us and how we've been doing a great job. And so, next slide. Some of the great projects that we're working on all across the parish, starting with the zoo. Jim and his team have been locked up in trailers for the past 3 years and dealing with construction, and so we're excited to be announcing the first phase of that completion, celebrating that on October the 5th. The Central community was a big part of the folks who came down to our board meeting and demanded that the zoo stay at its current location, and so City of Central still has high representation, certainly in the top 4 or 5 areas that visit the zoo, and so that is an asset that I'm sure the citizens here will continue to enjoy. Improvements at Howell Park, Frenchtown Conservation area, probably our nicest, biggest conservation area where the co-meet meets the A-meet. I believe over 700 acres of conservation area. We just finished a nature center out there. The safe rooms at Memorial and Airline is a great partnership with City Parish, Office of Homeland Security, where some FEMA dollars are paying for these 2 safe rooms at Memorial and Airline. None of your property tax or park and recreation dollars. These are 2 $50 million buildings that will serve as emergency operations centers at times of disasters where police and personnel come. It's not a shelter, but 99% of the time it's going to be a state-of-the-art recreation center. And so we're glad to be able to offer that and work with City Parish. FEMA's going to pay 75%, and the Office of Community Development is providing our match. So again, 2 great facilities. Airline Highway is turning into a community park. We're doing more green infrastructure at Greenwood. The Lakes Project is a big project where LSU is one of the few universities that has a lake system on its campus, and so that's a big attraction for students and athletes. And then we're always working on our trails and connectivity. We're doing some of that even here in the City of Central as we look to make safer places. Next slide. And so we just finished the 3-year study, Trust for Public Land, where we basically talked about the economic benefits of BREC. We started this back in 2021, knowing that it was going to be an important year for us this year to be able to share that information. And so we work with this national outfit that does a lot of this for a lot of different parks. The next slide kind of gives you a snapshot of what they ultimately concluded in terms of the economic benefits we provide, not just recreational benefits in terms of being able to go play on the playground, but other benefits such as savings and healthcare costs. You know, the fact that we have parks and people are exercising, that saves in our healthcare costs. Stormwater management, a lot of our parks hold water, maintain stormwater, that benefits us, that's money we don't have to pay in order to maintain. The increase in property values, well-maintained parks help increase property values. Tourism, as you guys know, a lot of people come in town to play at Central Sports Park, and if they have to stay the weekend, that's additional dollars that our park system is benefiting us with. And so, all in all, over $300 million of benefits on an annual basis off of the $75–80 million in public tax money that we receive. Next slide. There's that in a better description. Next slide. And so Imagine Your Parks 1, back in 2004, before I came to Baton Rouge. You guys will know better than I do. We were a system of neighborhood parks, and we were kind of at the end of our sort of last deal, because we hadn't done anything in terms of raising taxes since 1966. And so fast forward to 2004, park system is hanging on by a thread, and the community decided to pass the Imagine Your Parks tax, an additional 3.253 millage that brought us from 11 millage to 14.4 millage. And so what that brought us is the 12 new community parks, Jackson and Zachary and Greenwood and Liberty Lagoon. It brought us splash pads and dog parks, a lot of things that introduced to the community conservation areas. We improved every neighborhood park as a result of that, including the realm of the tiger at the zoo. The next slide talks about Imagine Your Parks 2. Well, this is some before and after from Imagine Your Parks 1. Jackson Community Park, you can see, I believe that's Lovett down there at the bottom, and the improvements that we've made at Lovett. Next slide talks about Imagine Your Parks 2. Now we're talking 2014 to 2024, our normal sort of every year that ends in 4 10-year tax. And so with Imagine Your Parks 2, did a lot of renovations. We added air conditioning to a lot of facilities, including Lovett. We were able to reimagine the zoo and do a lot of the lakes programs and stuff like that. And so look, as a result of putting those plans together, driven by community input, ultimately the support of the community in passing those taxes, and then ultimately us implementing what the community provided us in the plan. If my timing is right on here, the next slide will show you what that results in, which is us being recognized as the best park system in the country in 2022. And so look, that's the blueprint that we're just trying to follow again when we're talking about Imagine Your Parks 3, get the input from the community, show what you've done on the previous tax in terms of keeping promises, talk about what you plan to do with the next. Hopefully, the tax passes, and then you implement the plan so we can be recognized again as we were in 2002, Phoenix, Arizona Convention Center, about 5,000 park and recreation professionals. And so that does bring us to Imagine Your Parks 3, which is the next slide. Talks about our plans and our focus and our challenges. We do take on our challenges head on when we talk about how do we move forward sustainably. That's my board is challenging us that hey, every time you bring me a capital project, you have to let me bring a maintenance budget along with that, because as you know, a new capital project doesn't come with new maintenance dollars. Those maintenance dollars have to be shifted from your current maintenance budget, and so we have to be efficient. We have to look at taking some things offline so we can take care of the new and improved stuff. That's going to be a challenge. Another focus is equity, making sure everybody has access to a great park. We can't talk about all the great benefits that park provide and then not try to provide that to every area. And so that's going to be a big focus of ours, making sure we're focused on some areas that maybe we haven't historically focused on, such as Colby Park. You know, Councilwoman Wells, along with Mayor Evans, said we hadn't done anything there in a while, and we went back and looked, and we hadn't done anything in a while. So we'll be doing that all across the parish, where we haven't made investments historically, and making sure that we try and correct those past wrongs. The next slide goes a little more in depth about the community engagement involved. Katrina, Joy, our community team helped with a lot with this in terms of knocking on doors, making sure people taking surveys. More than anything, we wanted everyone to have some input on this 10-year plan. Next slide. And so when we talked about the focus on equity, and we asked people, what does equity mean? Because obviously it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but you can see some of the information we got back, just some of the ADA stuff, making sure that everybody is able to play and enjoy a playground, recognizing the historical importance. All of our parks have some kind of cultural history, and making it affordable, accessible hours. All of those things came up when we talked about equity. Next slide kind of talks about some of the themes that came out of the 10-year plan: increased connectivity, making sure you take heat into consideration when you're building stuff, improving the quality of what we have, making sure conservation, education remains a big thing, and keeping up with national trends. Next slide. And so here are the 5 guiding principles. Welcoming everyone, where we talk about equitable quality, connecting people, that's some of the programming and partnerships, and making sure people are connected places. Now we're talking about connectivity in terms of trails and safe routes. Moving forward sustainably, we talked about that a little bit, sustainable operations, and then the connected environment piece, making sure we keep that a priority. Next slide. We talked about how the needs vary depending on where you stay at in Baton Rouge. We know East Baton Rouge Parish, we're a parish-wide agency, but we do understand that different areas have different needs. Downtown has different needs than urban, has different needs than suburban, and different needs than rural. So we wanted to take that into account as we laid the plan out. Next slide. And this is where we looked at the equity priority map. We looked at a lot of these where the youth live, adults live, but we also looked at low income, lack of high school diplomas, obesity, and risk of climate. A lot of areas don't have as many trees, and so they aren't reaping the benefits. And then we looked at some of our previous investments, the acreage per capita, and this ultimately sort of highlighted those areas that had the most needs. As you can see, a lot of it is in the inner city Baton Rouge. Central probably is a lighter area because you have less of these things when we talk about low income and folks who don't have cars and some of the things that happen. And so that's how this map was developed. It also looked at investment over the last 10 years, where we've been investing dollars, which I also imagine probably played a part in having Central a little lower than some of the other areas. Next slide. And so here's the conundrum that we face when we talk about the average park system similar to Breck's in terms of size and population. This is an eye-opening slide which says that we have 38 more recreation centers than the average park system our size. We have more than 111 basketball courts more than the average park system our size, and so forth and so on. You see some of the communities that we're compared to in terms of our peers, but this is a big challenge for us. Yes, it provides a lot of amenities for a lot of people, but as Dr. Lawson, in charge of our park operations, can tell you, it's a strain on our resources. Next slide talks a little bit more about the biggest strain that we have. 56 recreation centers in our parish. That's more per capita than pretty much anyone in the country except Minneapolis. I like to always go down right to those bottom 2 numbers where we see 24 of them are between 30 and 50 years old, and we each have 3 of them that are older than me, 50 years old. And so that becomes a challenge when you talk about 56 of them, over 20 of them without air conditioning, over 27 of them older than 30 years old. We did ask the community in our surveys, our public meetings, and you can see from the scientific survey, a high percentage of residents, 72%, are supportive of fewer but higher quality facilities. Again, we believe our community deserves these higher quality facilities. We should not be fighting to renovate a 50-year-old facility. No, let's get a brand new facility like the one that we're in now. But that also comes with, we have to manage our priorities. We can't have this and keep the old one that grandma taught us how to play basketball in, you know? And so those are gonna be some challenging conversations when we talk about that 72%, right? Because we know how it goes. Yeah, I'm in favor of better quality and less facilities, but just don't take mine in my neighborhood. And so a lot of 2025 will be focused on those kind of conversations where we talk to the community and say, hey, you have 3 recreation centers all within a mile. Which one do we want to renovate? Which one do we want to make an outdoor? Which one do we, you know? And so those are tough conversations we'll be having all throughout 2025. As how those conversations will go, we'll talk about in the next slide. It's our current model, 56 recreation centers. Next button will show where we're ultimately trying to go in terms of a tiered model. And so if you hit the next slide, it talks about tier 1 recreation centers, similar to how we did the community parks, right? Where we focused on quality across the parish. So we're talking about larger facilities, wider range, versus our tier 2, which may be smaller, and may not have a basketball court. It may just have for gatherings and meetings and those sort of things like that. But also as part of tier 2, these outdoor hubs, which we've seen all across the country that we want to be able to bring to East Baton Rouge Parish. Next slide, I believe we talk about some challenges that we have with the 50-year-old recreation center. One is too small. Most of the time it's too hot. And then it has to be staffed, right? You can't open it unless you have somebody there. All of those are big challenges we have with some of our recreation centers. The next slide talks about the benefits of some of these outdoor hubs where it can be used all day. You don't have to have a staff person there. It reduces our maintenance costs, and one that you don't have to have a staff person there. You don't have to have an HVAC system there. But you can build an outdoor facility, state-of-the-art outdoor facility that's better than a 50-year-old recreation center. And I know that's going to be some of the conversations we're going to have. I think we have some examples in the next couple of slides of what we're kind of talking about here. I will say this one on the left, I believe, is in Iowa, so I think maybe that's a different climate. But the one on the right, I believe, is in Austin or San Antonio. So this is in similar climates that we have here in South Louisiana. Next slide kind of shows a couple other examples. Pickleball courts and covered playgrounds are some of the things we're going to have to move to when we talk about reducing our maintenance costs so that we can be more sustainable over the long course of the time. Next slide. Just a couple more examples. Next slide. Just a quick reminder about the environmental benefits. Just talking about where we have trees and the benefits of that environment that we in terms of cleaning the air and absorbing water and all of the wonderful benefits that park and recreation provide. Next slide. And so this is an informative slide, very educational slide when we talk about how BREC is funded. And so I know oftentimes we talk about the number of times I see BREC on my property tax bill, and a lot of that has to be over the course of years we've added progressively. You see we're at 14.4 now, but when we were created in 1946, the legislation says we can levy up to 18. We never took that position. You know, we started out with 1 mil and 54, quickly found out that wasn't enough, and went to 1966 and added a couple more, and it wasn't until 2004 when we added that last 20-year millage. And so that brings in about $78, $80 million a year, and then we have another 12 or so self-generated, and then between grants, some donations and those sort of things make up the other 10%. So roughly, just round numbers, $100 million in revenues that obviously we have to limit ourselves to $100 million in expenses The next slide talks about why that's important when we talk about November 5th. And so we have that 20-year millage is up for renewal, along with our normal 10-year millage that's up for renewal as well. Over 65%, over 50 million of that $80 million in property tax revenue we receive is up. Big part, you know, there's not an increase. We're just talking about renewing 2 millages that we currently have in place. And I don't have to tell you guys who look at budgets all the time, what the impact would be if we lost 65% of our budget. And so those are some important things to mention. And just a couple more slides and I'll open it up to questions. October 5th, Greenwood Community Park, we're celebrating the first phase of not only the zoo, but the Bayou Promenade, which connects the zoo to the Greenwood waterfront. And last but not least, at the end of the day, we'll be celebrating brand new playground at Greenwood Community Park. So please, if you're available, come out and celebrate with us. A lot of fun games, music activities on October 5th. I think 1 or 2 more, Mayor. Just some events that are happening around town. You guys missed the Liberty Lagoon pool party. That was this past Saturday. Brew at the Zoo. Jim will not let me get out of here if I don't mention Brew at the Zoo this Friday. Tickets still available, so celebrating 10 years of selling beer at the zoo, just on that one day, just on that one day. Next slide just gives you a way to keep in touch with us. Sign up for our newsletter. It's custom. If you only want to hear about pickleball, just check pickleball and you'll only get updates on pickleball. And then answer any questions you guys may have. I appreciate this, council. Good time.
I want to say we appreciate you, Lori, or I appreciate you. Speaking for myself, I know just the last 10 years, what y'all have brought to the central community. I definitely see the impact growing up in this area, and you know, a lot of times I go play ball at Flannery Park, Sharon Hills area, but really I feel like a lot of things have been brought to Central, and so thank you for that. Thank you for the playground in Green Park, and I just really love how you get the community involved in those surveys, and you create the strategic plan around what the community is saying, and then you have proof that you do that. So keep up the good work, and I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman Lazare.
Corey, like now, I've always been a fan of Breck and personal fan of the way you run it. But you know, we're often under pressure to try and separate from Breck. You know, that's been going on for a while. And when you guys rolled the village forward, you made it hard on us. We're gonna get a lot more pressure because of that. I really wish I wouldn't have done that. It's gonna make our job harder.
No, we certainly understand your concern, and so, you know, we're not in charge of assessing properties, and so if your property value increased, that's certainly not on us, and we would expect as our property values increase that we'll pay a little more in taxes, and so our decision to roll forward, by our calculations was a minimal increase per household, but ultimately, as I shared on that first slide, we have a lot of stuff to take care of, and we are limited in the resources. So, in one hand, I have people telling me to defer revenue, and on the other hand, I have people telling me we're not doing a good job of taking care of stuff, and so that's what makes it a challenge for us. But we certainly understand you're not alone in your position. We've had some board members who had concerns as well, but the board ultimately made that decision.
Councilmember McKinney.
Right, to back up Tim's point, I know that you guys aren't in the business of assessing properties, but you are cognizant that properties do get assessed and that you know, those values will go up. So as you push that, it almost seems like a double whammy to the homeowners. One of the questions, and I think we've had these conversations a while back too, is there a way to see the financials for Breck for revenue collected in Central versus expenditures in Central over, let's say, the 10-year time period?
Yeah, and again, we can pull that information, again, we don't, again, we're parish-wide, and so we're trying to serve people within the parish and not necessarily, saying, did we do this in Central, did we do this in Baker, did we do this in Zachary? We look at where people are located and make sure that people have access, and so, so we can pull that information. Again, part of the benefit of having a large park system is we don't have people dedicated to just Central, right? We got people cutting grass in Central as well as outside of Central as well. So pulling that information sometimes is a challenge, but we do have people that work at Jackson Community Park, that work at Lubbock Community Park, where we can get the details on that sort of information. And we certainly can work with the tax assessor to determine the amount that we receive from Central. Yep, that information is available.
That would be definitely something that you can look at. I'd love if you could share it with us.
Yes, we'll do that, and we're taking notes. I know part of Joy is making sure we follow up, and we'll respond to the entire council with that response.
Thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Laverne.
Thanks for coming out. I appreciate the presentation. If I heard you right, you have about $100 million budget, right? That's pretty healthy. You all do a lot. Like you said, parish-wide. I think you do a fair job leading the group, leading the organization. I don't feel confident that there are some accountabilities in place. I think you're compensated very handsomely for what you do, on par with, I think, the mayor parish president, who has a $1 billion budget. And I guess I would just say that, as I look at the audits and the financials that were just posted in August of 24 for the year, fiscal year 21, I've got concerns that you can make, or your board can make educated decisions on how much revenue you need or don't need to take care of your parks, because your fiscal, your audit is 3 years old that you just published. So I'm not sure what I was taking into consideration as you roll forward. It feels like it's a group that says we can get more, let's get more, and that's a concern.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your concerns and comments. Again, on the roll forward piece, the 14.463 was voted on by the voters in 2004, 2014, and 2016. They voted on 14.463, and so that's part of that. And again, look, my board has made it a point to me in terms of disciplinary actions as it involves the timely filing of our audits. Our 21 audit was due in June of 2022, and so it was completed in June of 24. So it is 2 years old. Part of that was within our control in terms of not having things ready when the auditors. Some of it was out of our control. We had an untimely death of a CFO who was in charge of that process. There's been a lack of professional accountants that's been talked about nationally everywhere. And so there were some things out of our control. Sometimes we have stuff ready and the auditors can't look at it for another 2 or 3 months because they have. So look, we understand the concern. We know that audit is one piece, a big piece of the trust that the community has for us, but there are a lot of things we have in place to ensure that we are collecting dollars properly, accounting for the way we spend dollars. Our internal audit division is looking at P-card use, and anytime you see a misappropriation of funds, it's because we found that ourselves. Our auditors have never found any mismanagement, poor management. We have findings, just like most audits have findings. We're rectifying those findings, but Postal Wade and Netterville, EisnerAmper, biggest accounting firm in Louisiana, has been doing our audits for the last 10 years. If there was cause or concern to raise a red flag, I don't think they would jeopardize their credibility to try and protect Breck for anything. And so if there were You know, things that needed to be brought to the legislative auditor's attention. I don't think Postal to Netterville, Eisner, Amper would skirt their responsibilities to do that. And so look, again, we know that's the trust. That's all we have, is the community's trust. And we know that that audit is a big piece of that trust. But so is a lot of other things that we do in terms of delivering on the promises, saying we're gonna fix a playground, fixing that playground, trying to pick up trash and clean restrooms and cut grass. All of that is part of the trust relationship that we develop with the public. And so we're working on cleaning all of that up, including getting our audits timed finally. But I appreciate your concern.
Not every conversation's easy. I appreciate you coming to the table and speaking this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor?
Superintendent Wilson, thank you for coming. I want to preface my comments by saying I did in fact reach out to the superintendent and offer him an opportunity to come to my office and let's discuss this, but he had to leave to go out of town and couldn't make the meeting. I mean, we could sit here and say, oh, that's great, you're doing a great job, but look, the fact is you're not. And the parks in Central are suffering because of that. We've had an issue with Sports Park, and it's got Central, Sports Park, Rec on the thing. And y'all leased the sports park for a week-long tournament without bathrooms, because they were under construction for whatever reason. And nowhere in the planning of operation with 1,000 employees and a $100 million budget did anybody say, hey, we probably should get some bathroom trailers or something out there. And I get a text from the mayor of Addis who said, brother, your park is terrible over here. People are complaining about the city of Central. And that tournament organizer played until Tuesday, and they said to hell with it. They left. They went to Livingston. Took their tournament to the town of Livingston. We lost that multiple thousands of people that were going to be in the city of Central spending their money because of poor management, brother. Do we have a solution for the rodeo? What are we doing for bleachers? Do we know? My issue with this is I've asked for information. I asked months ago for a breakdown of the money that is spent in Central. I can figure out what's generated in Central based on the millage and the value of a meal in Central. But I don't get the cooperation that I would expect for the kind of operation that we're running. I've got multiple flood projects we're working on, and you have a park that serves absolutely no purpose on Hooker Road except for trees, that has a major conveyance zone running across it. And I need some of that park to save $22 million of Central taxpayer money to be able to move a detention project from north of Cooper to south of Cooper. But the cooperation I get from Brett is we have to keep our trees. I don't see it, brother. I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna support going forward. I'm gonna fight for Central. It's my obligation. I'm sorry to the Breck employees that live in Central, but as your mayor, I owe it to you to do what's right for this community. I appreciate Reed. I appreciate your whole team. But we have issues out here that are not being addressed. I went to Bridlewood. Those are tennis courts. There's no bathroom out there. I don't know what the building is for. I really don't know what's happening. It has an air conditioner, it's got vines growing all over the side of the building. I know Brett generates from Central close to $3 million a year. And I don't see an equitable return over time. And if you want to show me the money Breck put in, not from state funds. What is Breck invested in Central? Not from state capital outlay, not from FEMA, not from money you got because of a disaster or something else. The money you took from us, show me where you spent that money in Central. I think we deserve to know that. I mean, it feels good, to say, yeah, we got great parks, but if you go around to every park in Central, the tables at Indian Mound, the paint's flaking off of them, one of the seats is broken at the table. I mean, hell, I don't know where $100 million goes, but to not be able to properly maintain these parks, we have a city of 62.8 square miles, almost 200 miles of roads, thousands of feet or hundreds of miles of off-road ditches, that we maintain this whole city for a contract of $6.5 million a year. We spend about another $4 million cutting grass and doing all the things that we do, fixing culvert crossings, enhancing the quality of life of our citizens, and it allows us to take an additional 15 to 20 million a year to do capital projects, which is, I'm not comparing me to you, but I'm telling you with that 3 million and those few properties in Central, I know we could do a better job. That's why I wanted to work with you to do a CEA and say, here, you take that money, because you have legacy costs, I get it. You have a lot of administration. But I can do better with $1.5 million of the money you're taking, and you can take that other $1.5 million and pump into your bureaucracy, and let me invest that in our parks. I can get the grass cut, I already got bids for $320,000 a year. That's for every park in Central, every property. I mean, the Frenchtown Conservation Park, we talk about it's a great park. I ain't been out there, I ain't took a tour. I go out there every now and again. I went out there not long ago, the gate was open, road back there. And this is the same thing for the rodeo. You spend a bunch of money, you say, getting ready for the rodeo. I intentionally went out there the week leading up to the rodeo, every day. And around 2 o'clock, I would go by there. And everybody that was working out there was under the cover, sitting on the picnic tables. When I went to the Frenchtown Conservation Area, the weed eaters were on the back of the truck, and everybody was sitting under the building. You've got an accountability problem, man, and you have no control over the staff, and they're fleecing the taxpayers by not doing the job that needs to be done in an efficient manner. Now, that's just my take, and I wanted to deal with this with you, and me and you, not in the public forum. So, I would love to revisit this.
Yeah, you didn't share anything that you haven't shared with me privately, Mayor, and so I don't mind you speaking candidly, Mayor. I will have to speak up on behalf of the 1,000 employees that work for BREC and the investments that we've made in the city of Central, whether it's Jackson Community Park, whether it's Central Sports Park, whether it's Lovett and the dog park, whether it's Colby Park. We feel confident that per capita, we've invested in Central more than any other area in the parish, quite frankly. And if you need to see the numbers on that, we can show you. But look, our challenges are no different than your challenges, right? You want to make sure everybody in the city of Central is taken care of. And we know that everybody doesn't contribute the same amount. And so there are some areas that contribute more, there are some areas that contribute less, but everybody deserves a nice road. Everybody deserves a nice school. And so we don't necessarily look at who contributes what, because if we looked at that, then we're saying that those who don't contribute anything don't deserve anything. And I just, as a government agency, I think our role is to be there for those that need it. And part of those who have not been able to put in as much as others have been able to put in, quite frankly, because they weren't allowed to put in at some point. And so we're not going to hold that against folks because they don't put in as much as the city of Central. We know that there are areas in town that need great parks. And so, again, we don't look at who put in and make sure that they get the same amount, because we have.
Please don't twist my words.
I'm just telling you our perspective. I'm just telling you our perspective, man. So that is our perspective, and we can get you that information. And it may show that 1 year we spent $10 million in Central. It may show 1 year we spent $1 million in Central. And so that is the information. And look, we're fully transparent. You can go look on our website right now. All of our audits are listed. All of our monthly financials are listed. All of our budgets are listed. We're not trying to hide any information. And look, we work with anyone in terms of proposals. We have a proposal with the Central Area Youth League. They use the park and operate a league. That's money we don't have to spend on operating a league. They operate that league, we take care of the parks. And so we're open to proposals if it makes sense, if it serves the citizens of Central better than we're serving them now. not only do we have to look at that, we're obligated to take that into considerations when we're talking about dealing with other people's money. So, you know, if and until we get a proposal to do things better, we'll keep working as hard as we can to serve the folks here in Central as best we can. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to share information tonight.
Do we have a solution for Shady Park, for the bleachers?
Well,
Rodeo's in May.
And so that rodeo, again, it's for a private, nonprofit organization. We take care of Shady like we take care of any other park. We cut the grass, we clean the trash. Now, if somebody wants to hold a special event there, like a rodeo, then that organization needs to contribute more. That organization needs to get partnerships. But if we try to fund every private nonprofit organization, that's not sustainable. And so we've done that. We've spent dollars hosting that event. We don't get any return in investment. We don't get any dollars from the number of people come in to help us take care of the facility. But yeah, we're open to working with that organization as well as the city to get whatever it needs to get in order to have a successful rodeo. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, council?
Thank you.
Okay, so we need this.
Okay, next, item 3, report from Central Police Department concerning law enforcement within the city of Central.
I just wanted to make sure. Good evening, council. Clifton Ivey, Assistant Chief, on behalf of the Police Department. I have a very extremely brief presentation, or an address for y'all as soon as I give the statistics for August. August 2024 stats, your Central Police Department responded to 6 911 hang-up calls, 19 abandoned stalled vehicle with traffic congestion complaints, 1 alarm, performed 154 business checks and neighborhood patrols, 11 damaged properties, 5 disturbances, 2 DWIs, followed up on 14 prior calls, responded to 4 hit and runs, 4 calls regarding improper vehicle operation, 1 missing or found adult or juvenile, 1 narcotics investigation, 6 overdoses, 70 public assists, including welfare checks and assisting other law enforcement agencies, 1 report of shots fired, 13 suspicious incidents, vehicles or persons reports, 1 theft, 56 vehicle crashes, and 10 parking lot crashes. We responded to a total of 225 calls, which exclude traffic stops and business checks and neighborhood patrols. Off of 240 stops, we wrote 155 tickets. Our reserves donated 38 hours of service for the month of August. As everybody's both aware, and if you have a chance to glance your Channel 9 and Channel 2 News app, there are reports about rangers on central roadways this evening. Coming here tonight, I thought I would look back. Everybody is very familiar with the 2 fatalities we've had the last 30 days. But in addition to that, 30-day look back from September 23rd. Road crashes alone, we've had 62. From those 62 crashes, we sent 6 people to the hospital by ambulance. Off of those crashes, 4 DWI arrests were made. 1 was a 3rd offense, making it a felony. 1 arrested off of one of those crashes was previously arrested by Central Police Department in July for DWI. We have a problem in Central. To explain the extent of the problem, these are, I believe, 8. Each box represents a separate case. Obviously, I'm not disclosing the name. Some of those are active cases under prosecution. These are blood test results from state police off of blood draws we performed in connection to DWIs. It's never just one drug. The predominant the two predominant drugs that we see, methamphetamine, which breaks down eventually into amphetamine, and fentanyl. Some of the, every now and then you get the moon rocks, such as cocaine. I believe it's kind of a blast from the past. We don't see much anymore. The Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, that's going to be your active ingredient from marijuana. Each of those, when it's a drugged driver, that greatly increases the time we have to spend with that person, okay? Because it does not result from a breath alcohol test. The Toxilizer 9000 test for one thing. So that means if we obtain consent, we can go directly to a hospital, obtain a blood draw, submit the blood draw kit to state police. After that, or aside from that, if we don't get consent, either because they refuse to give it or because they're unconscious, we then have to apply for a warrant, which we've done frequently. Thankfully, technology today, we can do it electronically, submit it through an online system, and the judge can sign it. I can tell you we've never had a search warrant decline. We're pretty good at that. Just to tell you what the extent of the problem, it was even hammered into me a little bit more today on my way here. I live in South Baton Rouge. I'm coming down Perkins Road, Perkins and Essen. There's two turn lanes. One turn lane is not moving. I thought it was a crash. It wasn't a crash. Get out, guy behind the wheels passed out. Get him out of the car, get him off into the abandoned Rite Aid parking lot. I got to get in the car to move it for him. Scared the bejesus out of me. Is daddy okay? And I turn around and look, and there's a 6-year-old in the backseat. Baton Rouge Police Department came, had to call EMS, make sure he was okay. Looked like he had a aerosol can in his hand. He's probably nothing. That's a thing. So it's not just the high-profile incidents that result in death. We're sending people to hospitals for injuries from crashes, and we're making DWI arrests. And thankfully, a few years ago, we had the foresight. We need to send all of our road officers to Toxilizer field sobriety and make sure they're certified. Unfortunately, now we're not using the Toxilizer machine very often. So, thank you.
Any questions, council? Councilmember Lamar.
You mentioned, the two fatalities of the past 30 days, and then that data that you showed just now, that was how far back?
That's during the past year. Those arrests from DWIs we made.
Over the past year?
Yes, sir.
And council members, I just want to let you know, so far this year, just Central PD, it's not counting the sheriff's office wrecks, we've worked over 520 wrecks so far this year. And we're some of these DWIs that we're catching that we're working are 8:30 in the morning, and as well as at night. You know, that's not counting the gotaways, as they call it. We have a problem with people paying attention. We are seeing a lot of people driving down the road texting as they're driving, and it's causing these wrecks. And we're trying to avoid those wrecks. We're writing a lot of tickets to these people, and we're writing these tickets in the school zones too. We've been giving some people breaks, you know, on these speeding tickets, but it's fixing to stop, because we're having too many wrecks, especially in the subdivisions. We're stopping people in these subdivisions that we've been accused of not patrolling, but we're stopping these people within these subdivisions, going over the speed limit, running the stop signs with the excuse of, I live in here, why do I have to stop? And we get that excuse. You know, and it doesn't make any sense to me. What if that child walks out, or that young driver backs out of the driveway because they didn't see, because they hadn't been driving long. They're not paying as much attention as an experienced driver. Well, I live in here, it doesn't work. We don't want anybody hurt. And we need our public out here to pay attention to all this and report it. Especially the people drive passenger buses And just yesterday, I was in my personal vehicle, and I was going down Joel Road, 4:30 in the afternoon, or 5, somewhere around there, and I was in my personal vehicle, and someone went around the traffic, passing in the median, the painted median. They're doing this every day. And if we catch you, trust me, you're getting a ticket, a very expensive one. But they're passing in this median here. And we need our public to report this, get the license plate, take a picture, and I know you're driving, take a picture of the license plate when it stops at the red light. Get it to us, and we've been seeing a lot of people, they're throwing garbage out of the windows. They're stopping at a red light, opening the door and dropping it on the ground and driving off. Take a picture of it, contact us, get the license plate number, we will charge them. Thank you.
Chief, how many reserve officers do we have?
Well, we're down to only a couple now. We only have.
I noticed in July there was only 38 hours.
Yes, sir, we only have a couple of reserves now, we're trying to recruit more, cause we have hired a couple people that are, that's part-time. And, our numbers, we'd like to find some more reserve officers. And
So we only have 2?
I think we have,
I'll email you the number, but we are down, in fact, one of our biggest performers, so to speak, was also Russell Williams, who transferred to part-time status, and that really cut into that number. Now, though, if we take somebody who wants to be a reserve officer, I tell them that's fine, as soon as I can find you a class to go to, I'll see you 6.5 months later. That's a huge commitment for an unpaid position, so.
and it's actually 7 months, and it's 2 days a week and every weekend for 7 months. It's hard to get somebody to do that, especially, and we get people that wanna be reserves, but they work shift work. Well, a lot of the classes are at night, so, and if they miss one day, they put them out. It might be an excuse for one, they're sick. If they miss them days, they put them out of the academy. I hate to spend that money to put somebody through the academy that's not gonna make it. Or, you know, it's a lot different than it was back years ago when Tim started. The academy is different now. And, it wasn't as many days, and it wasn't every.
6 months, it was 6 months and every other weekend.
Yeah, every other weekend, but it's every weekend now. I mean, there's a lot more.
You've been doing it for a year.
Yeah, you've been doing it 30 years. It's a long time, but if you know a good recruit that wants to be a reserve, I mean, you could be a reserve, even though you're on the council, because the reserve is not a paid position. I don't know about you.
Chief, are we keeping track of the accidents and DUIs that are involving people that are just passing through Central, like traveling through Central to go to Livingston?
We'd have to do a little bit more footwork on and passing through. But every DWI, I mean, it's in the report. And you'd be surprised, we have quite a few of them from here.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, I was just curious.
It's a shame, and just like these 2 fatalities we had, there was 2 within a week, and they were both within 1 mile and 6/10 of their home. One was going home and one was going to work, and unfortunately, we lost one of our city workers for one of them.
I'm gonna speak to that in a minute, Chief.
And it's unfortunate, but we need to pay more attention to these stop signs, these roadways, get off the phone. Thank you.
All right, next we have a report from IBTS.
Mayor, members of the council, Taurus Freeman, Deputy Program and Planning Director for IBTS. I would like to thank you all for your condolences this past week. As you all know, we lost a member of our family, Javon Quinn, and I stress the hour because IBTS and the city of Central are one. We represent you all in the field and outside the field. We wear shirts that says City of Central on our backs, and we have pins on our lapels that says as much. And everywhere we go, our reputation follows us and it represents you all. So I just wanted to stress that. I know there was some chatter this past week regarding that, but I just want to let you all know that our partnership is beyond a contract. And it's more about family than anything else. So I just wanted to stress that before I give our presentation. So with our public works for the past month, we had a total of 266 issued orders. We completed 273. 171 was generated from August 1st through August 31st. Year to date, we have completed a total of 431 of 571 orders. We currently have 140 that are still pending. Regarding our planning and zoning, we have been very busy regarding that. It really truly does not indicate it in our report, but we have text amendments that are going to come before you all that's totally going to revamp the way we do business here in the city of Central. You all saw a little bit of that tonight in what you passed earlier regarding our proposed UDC. Floodplain management, we had 4 flood zone determination requests and 4 land disturbance permits issued. Regarding permits and inspections, we had 103 permits issued, and in code enforcement, we are still in that season where we're still dealing with a lot of high grass and rubbish. Regarding roadside drainage, as you can see on your screen there, Bramley Oaks subdivision, we cleared out 5,436 feet of excavation. Regarding the drains, our off-road project on Indian Mound, you can see the type of work we've done there. And regarding also for our roadside drainage cleaning, we got Huntley Avenue and Downey Drive. Do you all have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the, sign permits, people can only be granted a sign permit 4 times a year, is that correct?
Temporary temporary signs.
I got an email from a couple of business owners that they needed, a different type of sign, that they couldn't get one because the city only gives them 4 times a year. So I wasn't really sure what that.
Right. We try to, in our code, it limits the amount of temporary signs you have for a business. And that's only, you can only have it 4 times a year for 14 days.
But they can go and get a sign that, okay, that's what I told them, but I wanted to double check. And then, so in July and August, y'all had a 75% completion rate. I know it's usually in like the 90%. Is that because of the storm, or I didn't know what was going on for July and August? Is storm pickup count in the work orders, or is that above and beyond?
I would attribute some of that to the storm, if correct. We do have a high volume when we do have high rain events. We did have a certain period of time where we had a lot of rainfall for a couple of weeks. So that does affect a lot of our operations at times.
We had a shakeup in personnel as well. We had to revamp operations. So
Did that affect the work order?
well, I think, and look, I'm not so sure that some work orders wouldn't be closed down. Probably shouldn't be, you know, so I don't think the number of work orders or completion dates is, or the amount completed, is somewhat accurate. When we were doing Ramblin' Oaks, we had 2 sinkholes that had fences around them. You know, we put orange fencing up back in November, and workers were closed out, you know, November. So, you know, there's issues about accountability that I'm not sure that any of it is accurate 100% anyway.
That the 90% wasn't?
No, the current stuff, but in June, July, and August, you have a decrease because we terminated public works director. We reorganized how we do things, and so it shifted the workflow. We changed some processes because no longer want to go out and just dig a ditch when we were right. So there's some things that have shifted, so that may be why you see a difference in that. speaking to the sign permits, I would like to see, and I don't know, I've got to check, I would like to see us go to, you could get 6 a year and, you know, extend the dates. But because our small businesses do need some, but the problem is, if you put a sign out and just leave it there, it doesn't work anyway. Because you're cycling, it's just like any other new sign, you notice it, but then as you go by it over and over, it diminishes what it does. And so it would behoove the businesses to do multiple different types of temporary signs anyway, to excite attention. Believe me, my family is a business owner, and I've taken a lot of heat from him about code enforcement and signage, so I get it.
And we have started an initiative, to address some of those, permanent temporary signs that have been left in businesses. We do have only one code enforcement officer, who does a great job, but he's man of one. So, you know, we're trying to clean up the city at your direction. If there is a text amendment that we can change that better serve the community, please just inform us and then we'll get it done.
Yeah, I need to check, see if it's a staff level thing or whatever, but I'm looking at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Laverne?
I was just gonna say that as I looked through all of the work orders, earlier today, a lot of them seem to be maybe standing work orders, that are just kind of reminders to go check certain areas for litter or, you know, ditches or something to see if there's an issue there. So some of, obviously somebody different probably put the data together, so some of that could be, someone counting those standing work orders versus.
Yeah, that's your PM stuff that we have to, I mean, we have a PM work order that comes up to notify for this.
Yeah, and it's in the big long, you know, the long list that was provided with the report, but, some of them, not all of them, but some of them say, you know, no work needed or something like that, so they may not have been closed out, because if you close them, then they will pop back up next time.
All right, next, item 5, distribution of the City of Central Accounts Payable Disbursement Report, Fuel Report, Deposit Totals for period of August 1, 2024 through August 31, 2024. 6, distribution of financial highlights for May of 2024. 7, other business. 1, public comment. No cards were turned in. We'll go to item number 2, announcements. Mr. May.
I did want to mention, as it relates to, Van, the gentleman that lost his life Friday. His wife, is very gracious for the support she received emotionally from us at the city. But we're hoping to put together a fundraiser to help them pay for some final expenses. So just be aware of that, just try to help them out. Corey is dealing with some things. As soon as he's back to being able to focus, we're gonna put something together. You know, part of this job is fixing roads and ditches, the other part is dealing with people. I met with our crews Monday morning, to reassure them, you know, that even though the chain has lost a link and it's gonna get very tight and kind of grind a little bit, we are gonna adjust. They seem to be very receptive. IBTS made grief councils available. So I commend our team at IBTS for always being willing to go above and beyond for us. And the fact that while we do have a contract, so many things we do is because of our relationship and not a piece of paper. So, thank you.
Any other announcements, anyone? Do we have a motion to adjourn? By Councilmember Meyer, second by Councilmember McKinney.